Hello, I'm E.Josserand. I'm a researcher and a professor at UTS, that's University of Technology, Sydney. I'm French as well. I've worked in France and in Geneva and in Sydney now. And I work in management with a special interest in networks, communities and network identity in networks. Today we'll talk about a broad topic. It's about doing management research. So what I want to do for you, I want to establish, if you want, the blueprint of your research. So it's really a broad overview, and then you have other topics when you can fine-tune some elements. So let's go through what we're going to discuss today. First thing is our objectives. The main thing is to really help you to develop skills in advanced research, and mainly about the overall structure. It's about design. It's about understanding what type of analysis you can conduct without entering into details, because there are so many methods. We won't do that into the really fine-tuned detail. You'll work that out later. You have to read to understand all this, but you'll have the broad overview. And then we'll discuss also about writing, what it takes to write either a dissertation or a book or a journal article, depending on which format you'll be choosing. And I want you to use also these modules that will be these seeds, these knowledge seeds that we'll be covering together to really reflect on your design. So the idea is that each time I will discuss something, I want you to think about you, about your positioning, about what it means for your topic. So let's try and make it that concrete exercise for you to progress your research, rather than just some theoretical discourse. So I'll try to help you connect it with your topic. Just a quick word about references and readings. Of course, you'll have to bring your own reading to the table. You are doing research, so you have to do your own lit review, and there'll be a specific seed covered by one of my colleagues on the literature review. But at the end of each section on this broad topic of doing management research, you have a series of references. But they don't cover everything again. They just give you a few key references that will be probably enough to get you going. And then you should cascade from that and look for other references that will be useful to your specific project. But the basics will be here. What I recommend as a first read is a book that's called Doing Management Research, a Comprehensive Guide. I contributed to that book as one of many co-authors. We joined forces. I think it's quite a unique book because it brings together many aspects of doing management research. As a first read, I really highly recommend it. Now, what are we going to cover under these broad topics? Well, a series of knowledge seeds. The first one will be about framing your research. It's all about the research question. That's very important. And I suspect that some of you already think they have their research question, but you realize down the track that it wasn't probably the right research question. You should expect to change it every, 2 weeks maybe, or every month for some time, and then regularly revisit it in light of what you discovered in your lit review or in your connection with your empirical research. Then we talk about design, and the design should match the research question. The design should allow you to answer your research questions. And because it's a complex story, the question of design, we'll review different examples, the canonical, the key design, the most frequent ones. But again, you will have to design your own architecture for the research. Then we'll talk about something very important. Again, without getting into a lot of details in the fine-tuning of the quant or core approach, I will contrast these two so that you get a good understanding about what you are heading for if you engage toward qualitative or quantitative or rather a mixed method. Of course, when everything is done, you still have a lot to do, and that's the writing up part. You have to write up your research. And there it's more a question of how do I organize it, how do I get it into the right format. And obviously, during that journey, you will want to manage your risks. So we'll review the main risk and we'll put a zoom or a focus on two specific risks. The first one is the risk with your supervisor or your panel. You want to be able to manage that and to connect nicely, but also stand firm when necessary in relation to your panel. And then something that would be really stupid, but unfortunately it happens too often, and that's the end of the race for you if that happens, is plagiarism. That's the obvious one. Obviously, we don't want cheaters, but there are some tricky aspects to it, and you don't want to get caught with red-handed when you only had good intentions. So it's always good to start the journey being well prepared and well, warned against these possible risks.